to the BC Hydro issue and smart meters. As I say, I got a ton of email on this, and I guess people want to know about it. They want to talk about it because from the feedback that I've received, there are still a lot of people who are curious / concerned about the smart meters. This one from a woman named Sharon Noble, who's director of the Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. She said, I appreciate you trying to get Ms. Cindy Verschoor, who is from BC Hydro, to commit one way or the other to an opt-out program. She and Hydro continue to misrepresent many things. One major thing is that she says that people can be put on the delay list and they will discuss the options. What they have been doing is telling people that they have no choice except to go off the grid or leave the province. There is no discussion except to intimidate and bully. Even people with health problems or medical devices and with doctor's certificates saying they should not have smart meters are being forced to have them. There is no consideration for any individual circumstances. Many people have MS, neurological problems like epilepsy, Parkinson's, sensitivities far more than the 1% or less than 1% Hydro claims. Many others have medical devices like pacemakers or deep brain implants. Many others are aware of the health effects from exposure to microwave radiation. And we'll get into that microwave radiation thing in just a second. This one from Vicky, who says the term final solution is used by Cindy Verschoor on John McComb's radio show on Friday. She sent this to Hydro and to the Premier and to other government officials. On Friday was poorly chosen to express BC Hydro's endeavor to find a resolution to the current opposition to its smart meter program. Such a term reminds us of unreasonable solutions that have been historically applied to certain groups in our world. As reflected in Ms. Verschoor's choice of words, there has been an unprecedented approach to resolving a public concern. Those who have been opposed to the smart meter program have been isolated and thought of in terms of a final solution by both BC Hydro and the BC government. Had Hydro not isolated the opposition and instead met with them, asked for input and concerns, and established a reasonable approach to these issues, then the apparent gap between those who advocate and those who oppose BC Hydro's policy with regard to smart meters would have been bridged. And this one from emailer by the name of D. Libel, who says, just wanted to pass along some feedback after listening to your show on Friday on the topic of smart meters. I thought you did a great job of posing important questions of interest and concern to those who are not comfortable with the smart meters being installed in their homes. I don't know if I really believe BC Hydro when they say it's only less than 1% of the affected population who have issues with smart meter installation. But what I do know is that many people have not been properly informed of the concerns, and those of us who are not comfortable with smart meters have. If this topic was discussed more frequently and without bias in the press, on TV, and on the radio, similar to your program on Friday, I believe awareness in this area would increase and more people would have something to say about it. And he goes on to say, I also believe that some of the comments made by Cindy during this discussion were contradictory to the information that is readily available out there. For example, she said the World Health Organization does not have any issues with the radiation emitted by such devices, when in fact, on May 31st, 2011, the World Health Organization classified smart meter radiation as a Class 2B carcinogen. Now, that's come up in a lot of different emails from people expressing their concerns. So I have the World Health Organization report in front of me, and there's just a few sentences in it that are germane to this, so we'll get into that after the 3:30 news. We're also going to talk with BC Citizens for Safe Technology and try to pin down just what these safety issues that these folks are talking about might be, and is there a reason for concern? We'll also tell you what the World Health Organization had to say as well. All that's coming next on The World Today. Well, we've been talking about smart meters in the last couple of shows, and I have received a lot of email from people saying that the World Health Organization has classified electromagnetic fields as possibly carcinogenic, and this would include the radio frequencies emitted by smart meters. Now, I'm going to read to you what the World Health Organization has to say on this. This was a working group of 31 scientists, 14 countries. They've been meeting in France to assess the potential carcinogenic hazards from exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic fields. They considered hundreds of scientific articles. And the results, the evidence was reviewed critically and overall evaluated as being limited among users of wireless telephones for glioma and acoustic neuroma, and inadequate to draw conclusions for other types of cancer. The evidence from the occupational environmental exposures mentioned above was similarly judged inadequate. The working group did not quantitate the risk. However, one study of past cell phone use up to the year 2004 showed a 40% increased risk for glioma in the highest category of heavy users, an average of 30 minutes a day over a 10-year period. Now, that was 2004 data. The conclusion, Dr. Jonathan Samet from the University of Southern California, overall chairman of the working group, indicated that the evidence, while still accumulating, is strong enough to support a conclusion and the 2B classification. The conclusion means that there could be some risk, and therefore we need to keep a close watch for a link between cell phones and cancer risk. Now, according to BC Hydro's information on this, a cell phone held up to the head puts out between 30 and 10,000 microwatts. They say that a smart meter at 10 feet puts out 1/100th of a microwatt. So, cell phone held up to head, 30 to 10,000 microwatts. A smart meter at 10 feet, 1/100th of a microwatt. Now, there were some groups today that dropped off material to Dr. Perry Kendall's office, the provincial health official. Joining us on the line now is Una St. Clair. She's executive director of the BC Citizens for Safe Technology. Una, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did you have to say, or what did you take to Dr. Kendall's office today?
We had representatives in Victoria who presented the information to Dr. Kendall, but what we're asking is Dr. Kendall look at the information that other public health officials are acting upon, which is that there is a risk here and that people have the right to choose the risks they will sustain, especially within their own home.
Well, you heard what I just read from the World Health Organization, that they say that the evidence was evaluated as being limited and inadequate to draw conclusions for other types of cancer.
That's right. This is a developing situation, but it still is very clear that there is a risk here, and people have the right to choose the risks they will sustain. And the information that BC Hydro is presenting is not based on the independent science that is free and clear of any funding from industry, and that's what European public health officials, courts, and parliaments are looking at now, and we're asking our medical health officers to look at this independent science that is not any political or corporate interests can be involved with any of this.
Well, Dr. Kendall's office put out a statement this afternoon saying that I recognize the people are concerned about potential health effects from smart meters. However, neither of these reports presented by the Stop Smart Meters Coalition represents new scientific information and are not from peer-reviewed sources.
Well, there's a whole body of science that's being ignored because it's financially not convenient to pay attention to it. We've asked Dr. Kendall's office to put in place the process of a report system where people can report adverse reactions to radio frequency devices. And this was something recommended in our Parliament in the report of the Standing Committee on Health back in December 2010. So today we actually have out of a federal MP who says, you know, we're not paying attention to our parliamentary recommendations. So people are suffering. People are suffering around Canada and around the world. This is an emerging public health situation. So the NDP MP in Ottawa, I guess, has gone ahead and said we will start a electoral sensitivity registry because people are being ignored and the parliamentary recommendations are being ignored.
Well, the question that comes to my mind, and I think it is difficult to draw conclusions because when they put a smart meter on the side of somebody's house and within, I don't know, a short amount of time they start having a headache or something else happens, then how can you directly relate it back to the smart meter? I mean, the cause or the effect doesn't necessarily follow the cause, does it?
Well, for people who experience sudden onset of a classic set of symptoms that are showing up worldwide, they have no doubt. And these people are, in many cases, educated. We have medical doctors reporting this problem personally, right through to every walk of life. This needs to be examined. We need a halt to have a look at what's going on here. And again, it doesn't matter how big or small the risk is. This is a developing situation, and we're rushing ahead with a technology that does have risks. Whether you say they're small or large, the risks are present. And this needs to be examined in a full public hearing and public debate, which we have called for with the BC Utilities Commission with an injunction complaint that was filed recently and is still being examined. And we are trying to bring this to a place of public discussion with the Human Rights Tribunal, because we also have many people with other health conditions. Their doctors are supporting them in that they should avoid microwave radio frequencies in the home, and BC Hydro is not honoring that.
All right, I got to put you on hold here for a second as we need to take a break. Much more with Una St. Clair, the Executive Director of BC Citizens for Safe Technology, when we come back. Una St. Clair, Executive Director of BC Citizens for Safe Technology, about smart meters, following up on a discussion we had on Friday afternoon with BC Hydro about this. Una, I agree with you to the extent of the way this whole thing was brought in. I mean, in essence, BC Hydro, under legislation, was told to bring this thing in. And so at this point, they can't stop it, can they? They've got to do what the legislation says, which is to install these things.
Yeah, but now what we're having literally an assault on our democratic process. Forcing wireless smart meters on people who don't consent is an assault on democracy, human rights, and our Canadian Charter. So, it's all very well to say I was ordered to do this, but this is something that is the tip of the iceberg as erosion of freedoms and rights right within our own home. You mentioned classifications, and I just want to clear something up here. The classification by the World Health Organization was for radio frequency electromagnetic fields, which included cell phones and cordless phones, but it covers all the fields. I have a letter direct from Dr. Ban of the IARC, and he says, yes, it does include emissions from Wi-Fi, smart meters, and all these things that produce the emissions. The risk is different because you're not holding a cell phone right up to your smart meter right up to your head, although there are people sleeping right through the wall from 1 smart meter up to 20 smart meters or more in apartment buildings. And people are getting sick already. It's very convenient to focus on cell phones, which are within the realm of personal choice. But this classification of 2B is in the realm of chloroform, DDT, lead, dioxin, and other noxious chemicals. It's very easy to point at coffee with its increased risk of cancer and pickled vegetables, which are only to do with chemicals used in Asia. So there's a sense of cherry picking there as far as reducing the risk. So really what we need to be doing is calling a stop to this. And the independent science that we needs to look at BC Hydro's calculations, which are based on pushing forward their program rather than looking at risk, obviously. And we do know that their calculations regarding the cell phone exposure are based on an average exposure of the frequencies, which is like saying it's a great place to live in the Sahara Desert because you average the highs and the lows and it comes out looking pretty good. So we want independent science, we want a halt, we need this looked at, and the public right to protect themselves within their home needs to be respected, and any sense of bullying that's coming from this program has to stop. I
want to read a little bit more of what Dr. Kendall said today. Independent testing has confirmed that BC Hydro's new meters communicates for about 1.4 seconds per day, and at 20 centimeters from the meter, the average strength of a meter is approximately 50% of the strictest standards in the world, et cetera, and a recommendation to go on Health BC site.
The big controversy is over non-thermal biological effects. Health Canada and Perry Kendall knows that biological effects happen far, far below our Safety Code 6. So the big discussion is, what are these biological effects doing? You know, when they change the melatonin levels and you don't sleep right, well, that maybe doesn't hurt you. So then it's not considered adverse. Well, talk to people who've got insomnia and see if it's considered adverse. So this is where the discussion is happening. And again, we're seeing in Europe moving to independent science in their court decisions and parliamentary decisions, because this is where you're going to find science that's not tainted by any financial or political interest.
I hear you talking about the precautionary principle. In other words, let's not put them in until we know exactly what they do.
We can do these safe. They could have chosen to have these meters wired through the phone lines or through fiber optics, which are to pretty much every community, especially in the large areas. Mm-hmm. We're also hearing that there's very, very few people that are dissenting. But if you look at the fact that we now have 31 municipalities that say everybody should have a choice in this, mm-hmm. and we should be putting this on hold until we figure this all out, not rushing ahead. How many people are in 31 municipalities? We've got North Vancouver, Richmond.
Well, I did the math on that on Friday, and it works out to about 1.4 million people. But not all of those people would agree with their council's decision. But
that's right. But there's lots of people pressing their councils around the province.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've seen such a growing sense of outrage and violation and assault within people's own homes. Their safety and their security feels threatened. Whether it's a health issue or the other issues that are really triggering people, this isn't going to go away. This needs to come forward for a full public hearing.
I appreciate you taking the time to join us, Una St. Clair, Executive Director of BC Citizens for Safe Technology. And as I said on Friday, you know, all of this could have been avoided had they simply put it out to the public, explained it, and given people the option. But in the style that we've all become so accustomed to around here, it seems, they stick it down our throats, don't give people the option, and so this is where the debate ends up. This is where the debate leads us. This is the debate we should have had before the stuff was brought in. You can always email us, twt@cknw.com, open for business 24/7. 3:52 now.